Thank you. Welcome everyone to our Remembrance Day ceremony. We're very glad to have you here at Durham College and UOIT with assistance obviously from our Student Association. Thank you for the Oshawa Civic Band. That was a beautiful introduction. Just going to give a little quick introduction and welcome for the day, kind of let you know what's going on for our ceremony. So obviously Remembrance Day is an extremely important event both for us just as students, staff, guests, but also in our Canadian history. Remembrance Day has evolved and will continue to evolve as each new generation learns the history of Canada, our wars, our struggles, and our victories, but we also realize the continuation of this in our everyday world and recognize our heroes. We mourn the loss of those soldiers who gave their lives for their freedoms, but we also celebrate those lives today with respect and honor. This is especially an important event for myself, as both of my grandfathers fought in World War II, and so it has special meaning for me, and I'm sure it has a very special meaning for many of the people in the room today. I'd like to give a quick introduction of the Oshawa Civic Band that we do have here today. So the Oshawa Civic Band is one of the oldest British-style brass bands in North America, originally formed in 1870. They have a long and rich history of their development and growth in Oshawa. Under Mr. Hodgins' direction, the band plays a summer series every year, Concerts in the Park at Memorial Park, which they've done since 1942. They also play at several civic events and retirement homes throughout the year. They have a versatility of style and repertoire, which is unique and highly popular on the concert platform. Their playing portrays the musical quality for which they are known throughout Ontario, and we're very blessed to have them here today. So now I'd like to introduce the Oshawa Civic Band to play both O Canada and the Maple Leaf Forever. If everyone could stand for our national anthem.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just to tell you something about the Maple Leaf Forever and why we play it. When we look at the poppies, we think about, of course, the men and women that died in the campaigns. But we also look at the poppy sellers that are out there representing the Royal Canadian Legion. So the Maple Leaf Forever has a special significance. It's the official march of the Royal Canadian Legion.
Thank you. So next we'll have Eternal Father, Strong to Save. At this point, I would just like to introduce one of our esteemed guests here today. Today we have Lieutenant Barry Hodgins, who's directing the amazing Oshawa Civic Band right now. Just to give a brief bio, so Lieutenant Barry Hodgins graduated with a music degree from Western University in Ontario. He has an extensive military background with 17 years as a member of the Royal Regiment of Canada Band. He was appointed in 1991 as Director of Music for the Regimental Band of the Governor-General's Horse Guard. He has a full-time career as a music educator with the Durham Board of Education, a longtime director of the Oshawa Civic Band and past president of Canadian Band Association of Ontario, a staff member of Whitby School of Music, cornet player in Whitby Brass Band, and past musical director of the Clarington Concert Band. Barry Hodgins would like to introduce the Eternal Father, Strong to Save, as well as O Valiant Hearts.
Thank you, Rachel. We're going to play the Eternal Father, Strong to Save. Now, the Eternal Father, Strong to Save is important because in the World War II, there was a very important battle called the Battle of the Atlantic. And basically, the Battle of the Atlantic was to protect Canadian waters and through the Atlantic Ocean against the German U-boats, the destroyers, and so forth. It was a formidable task because if you put a warship out there that is automatically in jeopardy of being hit, but if you camouflage it with a number of boats around it to protect that so that it can get through and to provide the food and the necessary munitions and so forth that the soldiers needed over in Europe at that particular time, it was a must. So what you did is you gathered as many soldiers and airmen, seamen as possible to put them on merchant ships to camouflage, to protect the warship. And these men fought through not only waves, tidal waves, tides, high tides, very bad weather, to protect the warships. And many of them were sunk by the German U-boats. So this hymn reflects on that. And once again, I would ask you not to applaud, but I would ask you to think, and as we play this, about someone in your family, someone that you know, that was involved in World War II or World War I or the Korea War or Afghanistan War. And also think about those sailors that were out on the sea giving their lives, 16, 17, and 18 years old, to protect our country. Eternal Father, Strong to Save. Now we come to the very important part of the Remembrance Day service. And that is, of course, the playing of the last post, the minute silence, and the rouse. And just to give you an idea, you've heard the last post many times. It was originally played on the bugle, and it's a series of bugle calls. Many people think that it's just one entire fanfare, but it's a series of bugle calls that were created before the First World War, because there was more campaigns before that. But certainly we recognize it when we see cemeteries, and we see veterans, and we see soldiers. So the last post is a memorial to the soldier. The rouse was officially declared in the year 1914 by the Canadian government. And the rouse is a remembrance to the soul of the soldier. So I'm going to ask you to stand as I play the last post. There'll be a 2-minute silence, and then we will have the rouse. So would you please stand, ladies and gentlemen?
Band, attention.
You may be seated, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. We will now have members of the Zeta Psi Fraternity of North America recite In Flanders Fields, my apologies, a poem written by Dr. John Alexander McCrae, a member of their fraternity.
In Flanders Fields by Lieutenant Colonel Dr. John Alexander McCrae, Theta Xi, 1894. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you. We'll now have speakers from Durham College and UOIT. I'd like to invite Donna McFarland, Durham College's Vice President of Communications, Marketing, and External Relations. She is here today representing President Don Lavisa, who sends his regrets, and as well Murray Lapp, UOIT's President of Human Resources and Services, who will be speaking on behalf of the university, representing President Tim McTiernan, who also couldn't be with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, distinguished guests, especially those veterans in the audience and their families, faculty, students, and staff. It is indeed a privilege for me to be part of this Remembrance Day ceremony on behalf of President Don Lavisa and everyone at Durham College. Today, we all pause to remember the thousands of Canadian men and women who sacrificed their lives fighting for freedom and democracy. We also remember their families and friends who have lost loved ones so that we as Canadians now enjoy living in a country that is often the envy of the world. We remember those who put their lives on hold to join our forces without a moment's hesitation. From the First World War to today's peacekeeping missions, they have faced unspeakable danger and have made a huge difference in all of our lives and in the lives of many others internationally. Many of us have personal reasons that make this day extremely meaningful, as our veterans will attest. Many of us may be thinking of family members, friends, colleagues, or recent news stories, all of which cause us to pause and appreciate the sacrifices of our soldiers and their families. Sacrifices they have made on our behalf. We are and must continue to be forever thankful.
Distinguished veterans and their families, members of the Oshawa Civic Band and the fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to be here today to represent President McTiernan and all UOIT staff and faculty at our Campus Remembrance Day service. Each year on November 11th, countless ceremonies and events similar to this provide an important moment for us all to reflect upon the sacrifices that so many Canadians have made in the past and continue to make today on behalf of our country and in the name of peace. Over many generations, so many Canadians, many of whom were the same age as most university and college students today, answered the call of service for our nation. Some did not return, and many came home wounded. Physically and psychologically, Canadian soldiers suffer the scars of war. Whether they served in the First or Second World Wars in Korea or in any of Canada's military and peacekeeping missions up to most recently Afghanistan, we owe each and every one of them our deepest respect and gratitude forever. Like the poem that we heard in Flanders Fields asks of us, we must ensure that we never break faith with the fallen. The act of remembrance is a sacred civic duty. and UOIT stands proudly with our veterans, our campus community friends and colleagues, and with all Canadians as we observe Remembrance Day with honor and with gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have a performance by the Oshawa Civic Band and Steve Harrison, Amazing Grace and O Valiant Hearts.
When you look at the hymn, O Valiant Hearts, it's called the Supreme Sacrifice. It salutes primarily the Korean War, the war that was fought in the 50s, sometimes that we forgot about. A lot of soldiers lost their lives. Just to give you a very fast story, during the time that the borders went back to where they were before, there was obviously an occupation of soldiers. The Royal Welsh Regiment was stationed there for a number of weeks to start to look after peace, to start the building, because you have to realize that even though this was a short war, there was an awful lot of damage done. You could walk down the main street of Seoul and you wouldn't see one building. So the soldiers were there to reconstruct, to bring faith, to bring back the building of schools, normal life. When they were replaced, the Duke of Wellington Regiment from England came in, and the Royal Wales Regiment marched, got on a bus, got off the bus, and marched for a number of miles to a cemetery in Paris. And Paris is in South Korea. The unique thing about this cemetery is that it's the only one in the world that's maintained by the United Nations. As many of the cemeteries are administered by, of course, the Veterans Affairs, governments, and so forth. This was the only one that was administrated by the United Nations. And the commander, the CO as we would call him, came to the front before they entered into the cemetery, and he says, "This is going to be the most important hymn that you've ever sung." And he gave them the words, and they sung this hymn without accompaniment, without a bugler, a cappella. And the words, and I will just read the first and last verse. "O valiant hearts, who to your glory came, through dust of conflict and through battle flame, tranquil you lie, you knightly virtue proved, your memory hallowed in the land you loved. The last verse. O risen Lord, O shepherd of our dead, whose cross has brought them and whose staff has led. In glorious hope their proud and sorrowing land commits their children to thy gracious hand. O valiant hearts.
Thank you. I'd like to, at this opportunity, thank all of the speakers who came today, Zeta Psi Fraternity, the Oshawa Civic Band, veterans in the audience, families, loved ones. It's been a very important ceremony today, and I'm glad that we could share it with everyone here. I'd like to thank everyone involved in the planning of the ceremony and the importance that this has for both students and our community to come together and honor those men and women who gave their lives for our freedom. I hope that we remember today and always those Canadians who fight for our freedom every day and who did it in our past as well. I'd also like to leave you with a quote from John Diefenbaker, our 13th Prime Minister of Canada. I am a Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship in my own way, free to stand for what I think is right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, or free to choose those who shall govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all mankind. We hope that today and always, we always remember those who fought for our country, and lest we forget. This is the closing of our ceremony, so once again, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation, and we hope that you have had an excellent opportunity to come and share in this moment together. Thank you.